My friends, I'm sitting in my porch smoking a cigar, which I shouldn't be, but I like Rocky Patel, Nicaraguan, 14-year-old cigars. I got to talk about something that's just disturbing, and I've mentioned it before, but it's creeping. The guy from Hobby Lobby, Steve Green, he's been lobbying. He's a right-wing evangelical extremist, and he lobbied to pass the teaching of the Bible in the town called Mustang, I think, in Oklahoma, and they passed it. The council people passed it. This is why I find it disturbing. They're going to teach children the Bible, and you say, okay, what's wrong with the Bible? I'll tell you what's wrong with the Bible. It's a myth, and if you do your research, you'll see what the Bible is. It's a compilation of books put together by Roman Emperor Constantine, and basically he burned about 100 books that he thought should go in there, and they put together the ones, I think there were 74 books or writings. They're not all books, some of them are just letters, and they put them in there. Now you say, what's wrong with the Bible? Picture your son going to school and opening a book where in Leviticus, the book of Leviticus, God says that you have to murder homosexual men. If a man has sex with another man, he has to be put to death. Now, that says it right there. I don't want my son reading that or thinking that comes from any God. It also says that if a woman is found having sex outside of marriage, she has to be stoned to death. Now, there's a passage in there in the New Testament where Jesus comes out and says, in defense of a woman who was caught, sleeping around, and they were ready to stone her to death, and allegedly he wrote something on the floor, on the sand, and told people, he who is without sin, go ahead and throw the first stone, and people just left. Now, there's no historical proof that Jesus even existed. It's not even mentioned in the history books, in Roman literature. Not even Josephus, the Jewish historian, mentions him. They do mention John the Baptist. In John the Baptist, there is evidence that he existed. Now, he's the guy who wrote, I believe he's the one who wrote Revelation. If you ask me, there's a tree that grows all around that called acacia. It's a hallucinogen, like peyote and stuff like that. It makes you hallucinate. If you read Revelation and you don't think that person, whoever wrote that, was high on acid or peyote, you need to go do some acid and some peyote and come back and say, shit, man, this motherfucker was tripping. Okay? Because there's shit that's written in there. If you read the Bible, you'll never, ever want anything to do with it as far as your children reading it. Monsters with 10 heads and horsemen flying around and all this stuff, the guy was tripping. So, the other stuff, there's other stuff in the Bible, like what happened during Sodom and Gomorrah. Basically, God got pissed and sent angels, and allegedly these angels came to warn Lot, the guy who lived there, who was, according to the Bible, the only righteous man in the whole city. I guess there were no babies and no women and no elderly people in that city. There was only bad men. So So I guess it was an outpost that had no women. Only, I guess, the only women available must have been the Lot's daughters, and there were no children either, I guess. So I guess people there were infertile. You see where I'm going with this? It's unreal. It's not true. So basically, these two angels told Lot, say, God has said that he's tired of dealing with this people's sin. He's going to burn them alive, and you need to leave. And then all of a sudden, Lot, here's a kicker. Lot says to the people start knocking on Lot's doors, and because according to the Bible, they say that they wanted to be with the man, with those angels that came down. Now, they're interpreting that as saying they wanted to have sex with that, and that's not the correct interpretation. Do your own research. I'm not here to give you a lesson on language and Hebrew and all Aramaic and whatever dialects they were speaking in ancient Palestine or wherever this myth started in the desert. So basically, Lot said, "Please don't. I don't want you to have sex with this." It didn't say like that, but it said, they're interpreting people like, "I'll give you my daughters to have sex with." Now here's a guy that's telling these people that are knocking on the doors, like, "No, I don't want you to have sex with these strangers who came to tell me that they're going to burn the whole city. Here's my daughters. Here, have them and rape them." That's how the people interpret that stuff. That's disgusting. I don't want my children to read that crap. Then Lot leaves, and they get told that if you look back, you could, just for curiosity, God turns his wife into stone. If you get curious and you look back and you feel any bad feelings about those babies and those women burning in Sodom and Gomorrah after God burnt the shit out of everybody, and you dare look back to see if there's anybody you can save, I'll turn you into stone. And that's what this God of the Bible did. Now, it goes further, and then they get into a cave, Lot's daughters and Lot, and since God burnt all the men available in the area, they decided to get Lot drunk and fuck him and have children with Lot. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want my son reading about incest, okay? In the Bible, and daughters getting their fathers drunk so they can. So I don't know why you consider the Bible to be moral. I don't know where the morality is in that. That's disgusting. I don't want to hear that. I don't want my son learning that crap. There's another passage where God, it's in Samuel. I believe it's in 1 Samuel. I don't know exactly, but look it up. It's in Samuel. You can Google genocide of the Amalekites. Now, God, allegedly, through the prophet Samuel, tells the king of Israel, Saul, which is Saul, I believe, is David's son, according to this, scripture. He tells Saul that the Amalekites have been bad and have hurt the Hebrews, God's people. So he tells Saul to Samuel to go ahead and kill all the Amalekites. Go ahead, basically, he tells him specifically to kill the babies and the women and the old people and the sheep and all the animals and everything, to leave nothing. This is God's orders through Samuel. Okay, now I'm trying to make you see, is like, do you still want this shit being taught to your children, your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old, 12-year-old in school? Is this what you want? Because they have succeeded to put this shit, and it's shit, absolute shit. It's a peasant myth from Palestine from 6,000 years ago or 10,000 or however. It's a myth. Okay, but they're showing this, and they're trying to say this is God's word and it's good for children. I don't think so. Okay, so basically, Saul went ahead and killed all the babies, all the women, all the soldiers, everybody, but he decided not to kill the sheep and the goats to give to his soldiers as price, for food and for, as a loot. So God got pissed at him and told told Samuel to tell Saul, because, God doesn't just speak to anybody. He's got to speak to special people, even though, we're all the same under God. But they'll explain that shit to me too, But anyways, that he's pissed at Saul because he didn't kill the sheep. He wasn't pissed because he killed all the babies and gutted them out and shit. He was pissed because he did not kill the sheep. Okay? So if that's what you want taught in the schools, by the way, taxpayer-funded schools, churches do not pay taxes. Matter of fact, they got $85.3 billion, billion with a B, last year in tax exemptions, meaning if they were paying taxes, property and sales tax and income tax, they would have paid $85.3 billion, which, by the way, would have taken all the people off of welfare that are having food assistance and still have money left to house all the homeless population in the United States with 1 year of tax revenue from churches, okay, which claim that they care for the poor, but they don't pay taxes, and they don't, go figure that. They just fly around in their private jets, and you morons buy their Joyce Myers, and while she's got mansions and private jets, and Joel Osteen with his $11 million brand new mansion, and what's the other one? The other one, there's another one that's really, he's the worst. He's got a hangar full of planes. Anyway, Kenneth Copeland, that's his name. He's the worst of them all. But people keep giving them money. But anyways, you keep buying their bullshit books about their quotes and their crap. But anyways, that's another story. Now, and people say, well, Jesus came to change all of that. Okay, if Jesus is eternal because Jesus was God, according to this myth, means Jesus was there when the creation was made, the legend of creation, that it was 6,000 years ago, and that man rode around on Tyrannosaurus Rex with saddles and arrows, and he used T-Rex as a hunting horse, and the devil was the one who put all the fossils on Earth to confuse man. This is the theory that they want to teach your children in school. If you don't believe me, go to the Creation Museum. This Australian piece of shit that preaches this creationist crap is making it to our children's schools. They've passed it in Georgia, in Tennessee, in Kentucky, and I believe now in Oklahoma. And you're just sitting there doing nothing, letting them teach this crap to children. So now they're saying, okay, but Jesus did a lot of good stuff. Okay, let me see. If Jesus is God and he was always there, that means Jesus also was the one who ordered the genocide of the Amalekites, and also was the one who ordered the flooding of the entire human species in the Noah's Ark story or myth, which, by the way, every time you see the rainbow, according to the Bible, go read it. I believe it's in Genesis, the story of Noah. Every time you see the rainbow, remember that according to the Bible, that's God's promise that he's never going to commit genocide using a flood again. Okay, so that's what it means. So you're teaching your children this. You want this shit are you sure you want this shit in your schools? I don't. Not only because I'm an atheist, but because it's evil. It's absolutely evil. It's full of homophobia. Paul, the guy who wrote Hebrews and Romans and Corinthians, Paul was a genocidal mass murderer. He rounded up Christians. He hunted them, chased them, and hunted them like animals. Sold them to the Romans to be burnt at the Roman Colosseum. And all of a sudden, he gets converted to Christianity, and he decides to spread the gospel. The gospel of what? Of hate. Because if you read, I believe it's Corinthians or Romans, one of the two, the list of people that are not going to heaven, he tells you all the people, and at the top of the list is homosexuals, Never mind that people are born that way, but they're born homosexual, Just like, the question is, ask yourself this question: when did you make a choice to be straight? Never. You never start saying, okay, I'm going to decide to like girls. You like them because you like them. Just like there are some boys who like boys. Just like there are some girls who like girls. Okay? So, and it's all over in nature. And nature is homosexualism is nothing. It's not an aberration specific to Homo sapiens. It's not. Ask any biologist the amount of species that are hermaphrodite or homosexual, and they'll tell you it's a large percentage. So, anyways, and here's another one. And people say, well, Jesus did all this stuff. Well, Jesus is God, so if Jesus is God, Jesus also committed genocide. And say, well, in the New Testament, he started, abolishing all that stuff. The only thing he didn't abolish was slavery, because if you read Luke 12:47, he tells you, he uses a parable to describe how to behave. Basically, he gives instructions on how to treat your slave. So if the slave breaks the law unknowingly, you don't beat him up too bad. If he breaks the law, your rules, the rules of the slave master, knowingly, you beat the shit out of him. Anyway, he gets beat up. Okay, this is Luke 12:47. Jesus on instructions on how to, how to treat your slave, and so I don't want any of this stuff in my church, in my schools. And even if they start paying taxes, it doesn't matter. We have to come out and stop these people, from continuing the pollution and the indoctrination of hatred into our children. They're trying to turn this into a theocracy, and the funny part of it is they criticize the Muslims, but they're trying to do the same shit. These religions are the same. They come from Abraham. Remember the guy who God spoke to him and told him, "Listen, man, I need to know if you're loyal to me or not. Go ahead and take your son up there on that mountain and kill him." This is can you imagine a God that's loving that tells somebody, would you do that to your son? Say, I want to need to know if you love me. Go ahead and take your little brother and take him, or take your best friend out there in the yard and kill him. Do you know the type of emotional trauma that brings to a father? But this is the God that they want our children to worship, and it's the same God. Abraham had two kids, one allegedly, one with the maid, and the other one with Sarah when she was 90 years old. Okay, that's a problem right there, So you have to make a decision. I agree with Christopher Hitchens when he said God is not great. This genocidal God that they're trying to teach our children in school is the Bible should have an explicit lyric advisory, and it should be kept away from all children. This is really bad stuff, So stay awake. Don't let these people. And the reason I don't have a light on me is not to hide. I'm not scared of anybody. You can see all my videos. It's just because I don't feel like having a light on me right now. And I don't care, just listen. I just want you to listen to what I'm saying if you want to. If not, you're free. But anyways, don't let these people take over your children's minds anymore. We've had enough of blood from all religions. And I'll leave you with this. Someday, when this religious fad of what I call genocidal mythologies from the Middle East goes away, and there's another new version of some man-made God, those people will look back at us and say, were they crazy to believe in that shit? Just like we look back and think that the Greeks were crazy for believing in Zeus and Apollo and all these people. All right? So hopefully, in one day, there will be a world without religion, and we'll all start respecting humans instead of stabbing each other in the back and destroying each other and hoping that some man-made deity forgives us for all the horrors we've done to each other.